at this very early time of the morning. The sun isn't yet up. In fact, the leaves are turning from brown to green as we're going into almost into summertime, which is fantastic. Last Tuesday, we had what's called Melbourne Cup Day. It's an international horse racing day, which I'm not too keen on, but nevertheless, but it was the most glorious day. It was 30 degrees. Everybody flocked to the beach. It was amazing. And then 3 days later, we had one of the biggest hailstorms we've ever had. So, Melbourne's weather is very changeable. So it's been a week of extremes. Yeah. What about you, Damon?
Well, over here it's also in the autumn and heading towards winter, I guess. It's starting to get pretty rainy around here in Portland, Oregon. I've been just busy teaching music at the university and doing my graphic novel online, and that's been it's been great. How about you, Ken?
Well, here in Arizona, it is going into winter. So, of course, they celebrated it weather-wise with a heat wave. Now, the heat wave hasn't actually hit us yet, but we're supposed to have a historic drought and heat wave in the next couple of weeks. I have no idea what the hell's happening with the winter or the weather. Anyway, one of the things this week that was really great for me is that, we have the Margot Fonteyn Academy of Ballet has a location in Fukuoka, Japan. And this week there was a national holiday or a school holiday or something there. And so what that meant was I was able to actually teach our children on Zoom. The teachers there teach them, but it was just really lovely to get a chance to see their progress and all of that. But the most important news is that we ended up dog sitting a dog, and we have 2 kittens, and the one kitten met the dog last night, and that kitten is now afraid of everything. But so that's the really important news coming from Arizona by way of Fukuoka, Japan. But let's now look at something that is going to benefit everybody and wonderful for everybody. Let's take a look at the entertainment news of this week. Some very exciting things with some Global Sundays prior guests. Take it away, Lungani.
She rolling with me, now she know my whip. They rolling on me, now I'm a wrist. I got bangs, lights, relics. Ready, 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 ready. Ready or not, we coming hard, straight from the top. Ready or not, I got my bros straight from the top. Ready or not.
Ready? No, I got all my bands on, no. I'm just making all this money, yeah, I'm cashing up. All my niggas in the street tryna get it all. All my niggas by the go up, yeah, we get it all. This shit, hunters, no. Making money, oh no.
Yes, welcome to the entertainment news. Today, I just want to remind you guys that Lysandra, if you remember Lysandra, we had her on the show a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. She is nominated for Grammy Awards. So please go vote for her. Make sure that, you support her. And then next, we have Topsile. I think we interviewed Topsile 2 months ago. She is a designer. And she is also nominated for some local awards in South Africa. Please go to our page so you can find out more about that. Sbonelo Zak, which is going to be our guest in December. He is also nominated for Gospel Awards. Please go vote for him. Raja Weird, if you remember Raja Weird, I think we also interviewed him like a year ago or so. He's a rapper. He is awesome. He's releasing a new project. If you want to find out more, go to his Instagram page, Raja Weird. Find out more. Tito Dandy, also one of our previous guests. He just recently released a new music video, and this one, I'm going to play the music video for you, but I'm not going to play the entire music video. If you want to see the entire music video, go to our YouTube channel, Diverse Global TV. You will see the music video. Yep, that's it for me today. But I am going to play you this video from Dandy Tito, Composure. Thank you so much. I'll see you later.
We're sorry, you have dialed a number which cannot be reached from your calling area.
Rainy days don't mean nothing to me. I got a little something. Say hello to my little friend. Composure is so cold. Best icy. I'm so cold. I got composure. So cold. Keep my composure. I'm so cold. I got composure. I don't panic. I keep my composure. I'm so cold. Best surf icy. I don't panic. I keep my composure. I'm so cold.
Composure, babe. Composure. I just keep it so clean. Keep it so clean. And you know me well. I don't mess with no lames. Looking straight in the face. I don't fuck with the fakes. I just come with the flicks. Ain't no time for it. You don't know me well. All these bitches the same. Gotta rise to shine. They can take it from me. I'ma grind, get what's mine. They can make it from me.
Rainy days don't mean nothing to me. I got a little something. Say hello to my little friend. Composure is so cold.
Welcome back. Now, today we have an extraordinary performer who's going to be our guest for today. She is an aerial dancer, in fact, an aerial dance choreographer as well, Jen James. She uses hammocks and slings to dance on air, and poetically she calls this suspended fluidity. So I'm really happy to be able to present to you Jen James. Welcome, Jen, to our program.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you. Now, so Jen, how would you describe the essence of your life to someone who doesn't know you yet?
Well, I am a performer. I am an artist. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm an optimist. And I'm really excited to be here today. So thank you. Short answers.
That's wonderful. Hello, Jen. It's good to be here with you. And sounds you're wearing many hats. So we need to make sure that you have enough headspace with Lungani, that he's always doing, the right camera with all those hats on top of it. The performing arts, they offer many different fields, and each is so special and so unique. And I'm also very much looking forward to knowing more about an area that I know almost nothing about. So that is quite special to me. And so have a very good day here, and I'm looking forward to see what the others have in terms of questions for you. I will also have some.
Great. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Jen. It's great to have you on. Aerial dancing is such a beautiful form. I've always really appreciated that form, and it can be very exciting to watch as well. That's wonderful that you have room in your life for all of those different hats. Do you happen to have a favorite one?
I didn't even hear that last part. I'm so sorry.
Between mom, aerial dancer, artist, all of those, which is your favorite?
Oh gosh. I like being able to be me, which is the artist and the creator. But other things are very important, and there's so much love there too.
Thank you.
I'm welcome, Jen. I know Jen well. On top of all of those other things, Jen is a go-getter and just a tour de force. If you know every single thing that I have seen you, address yourself to or choose to do, you have done it absolutely full force. And I had a little brush with aerial work in Switzerland. We were doing a production of the opera The Bartered Bride, and there's some big wild musical scene, and they wanted the ballet of the opera to be a circus, and they had me cast as an aerialist. And in the first rehearsals, they decided to turn me into a muscle man lifting weights and keep me on the ground because it didn't quite work out right. Anyway, I have, just from that brief brush with it, I have absolute respect for you. And as you've seen, I've been at some of your performances live. I just sit there with my mouth hanging open going like, oh my God, it's incredible what you do. So I want to ask, where did you learn the aerial work and how did it start? Because, like nowadays, of course, kids will see Cirque du Soleil and there's a lot of even television commercials that include some aerial work, but how did it begin for you?
Yeah, I wasn't exposed when I was younger. I was a dancer, or always loved to dance. I didn't have an idea that it would be a serious pursuit until I was in high school. Then that's all I wanted to do. And so after college, I moved to New York to dance and find my way around, and found that, I'm a fine dancer, but I'm not necessarily the one that everyone wants. And I was an artist, and making money is a thing, so you have to go get jobs everywhere. And I had all the jobs that you imagine for a performing artist, right? Bartending and waiting, and one of those was working for an entertainment company, and they produced huge, expensive, beautiful events, mostly for private clients and bar and bat mitzvahs. At one of those, the venue was Cipriani's on 42nd Street in New York. I was able to help decide what the entertainment was, or at least pitch it, and I had found a marketing brochure from this woman, Amanda Topaz, and so we hired her, and on that day I was the talent wrangler, amongst other things. And I was just in awe. I said, I need this in my life. And so I asked her if she would start teaching me. And so she started teaching me, and then hired me pretty quickly for some jobs. And that's how it started. And I'm so glad it happened because I feel very at home.
Wow. That's so amazing how life just kind of puts in front of you that thing that you need. Because you're in such a big pool of talent in New York, being a dancer, and then you could find this thing that's like a special form, that's a niche, and I suppose it's the one that you connected with most. Would you say?
Absolutely, and I feel that now sets me apart from other people because I have that and the passion for it too. Right.
Well, I wish I had aerial dancing at my bar mitzvah. They did those events mostly. Well, thank you very much. That's really awesome to hear about that. Let's go to the news with Ken Ludden.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Oh, we're going to go to the news with Ken Ludden now.
Welcome. I'm Ken Ludden, reporting for the Global Sunday.
Straight from the top, ready or not, I got my bros straight from the top, ready or not,
Ready? No, I got on my bando, no. I'm just making all this money, yeah, I'm cashing up. All my niggas in the street tryna get it all. All my niggas by the guap, yeah, we get it all. This shit, hunters, no. Making money, oh no.
I moved to Portland, Oregon, just with the idea that I was going to do art in general and music specifically, but that's pretty not specific when you get there and you start trying it out and figuring out what to do. And I was, getting what little gigs I could here and there, just playing as a solo performer. But at a certain point, I decided, okay, I think I want to go back to school and learn a little bit more. And then in school, I had a teacher who asked for us to write on a piece of paper something about ourselves that that she could remember us by, because she just has so many students. And so I wrote on a piece of paper that I went on a vision quest to Madagascar. And because I was the kind of weirdo who would do that, she really remembered me, and she asked me about that, and we developed a relationship because of that. We became friends, and then I became her one-on-one student in composition, and I became her teacher's assistant. And then my career basically just unfolded from friendship with her. She just started sending clients my way, and there were references. Okay, and so I can really relate, just finding the thing that connects you to where you need to be for the career out of the blue. So anyway, we're going to go to the news now with Mr. Kenlon.
Welcome to the Global Sunday News. My name is Kenneth Ludden. Today is November 7th, 2021. Today in the world news, or this past week, everything seems to be highly political. Everything in the world. It's very interesting when you do the news and put together the news broadcast in a weekly way, how you see these patterns. But first, I want to start with one of the Global Sunday's guests and talk about what has happened with her this past week. We've done part one of Spongile Ngoma. She is an opera singer, and she is also an advocate for artists. So she was arrested this past week in another protest against just the unfair treatment of artists, the completely sort of graft and corruption soaked world of funding for the arts. But this arrest was different. During the arrest, the police pulled off her shirt in an effort to humiliate her. But with her composure and amazing command of presenting herself, she simply stood there. She said, "They pulled off my shirt. This is what I look like." And in doing that, she actually shamed the police for these horrid actions. Now, this is an unfolding situation, so we will have future updates on her progress in advocacy for the arts and for artists. But I just wanted you all to be aware of this kind of tactic that was going on, clearly politically motivated. In our next story, after choking off methodically competition and dissent, current President Daniel Ortega of Nicaragua all but ensured his victory in a presidential contest, which voting is happening today, signaling Nicaragua's descent into autocratic rule. In his quest for a fourth consecutive term as the country's president, Mr. Ortega detained all credible challengers who planned to run against him, shut down opposition parties, banned large campaign events, and closed voting stations around the nation. The Nicaraguan commission that monitors election has been entrusted to his loyalists, and there have been no public debates among the contestants' 5 remaining candidates. And all of them are little-known members of parties aligned with Mr. Ortega's Sandinista government. Mr. Ortega's path to near total control of Nicaragua has ushered in a new era of repression and terror in the country, marking a turn toward an open dictatorship model that could set an example for other leaders across Latin America. His claim to victory would deliver another blow to President Biden's agenda in the region, where the administration has failed to slow the anti-democratic slide and a mass exodus of desperate people in a caravan toward the United States borders. Now we turn our focus to China. The glowing image of China's top leader, Xi Jinping, greets visitors to museums, exhibitions celebrating the country's decades of growth. Communist Party biographers have worshipfully chronicled his rise, though he has given no hint of retiring. The party's newest official history devotes over a quarter of its 531 pages to his mere 9 years in power. No Chinese leader in recent times has been more fixated than Mr. Xi on history and his place in it. And as he approaches a crucial juncture in his rule, that preoccupation with the past is now central to his political agenda. A high-level meeting opened in Beijing on Monday and will issue a resolution officially reassessing the party's 100-year history that is likely to cement his status as an epoch-making leader alongside of Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping. While ostensibly about political and historical issues, the Central Committee's resolution, practically a holy writ for officials, will shape China's politics and society for decades to come. The touchstone document in the party's past, only the third of its kind, is sure to become the focus of intense indoctrinal campaign. It will dictate how the authorities teach Chinese modern history in textbooks, films, television shows, and in classrooms. It will embolden censors and police officers applying sharp laws against any who mock or even question the communist cause and its so-called martyrs. Even in China, where the party's power is all but absolute, it will remind officials and citizens of Mr. Xi that Mr. Xi is defending their times and demanding their loyalty. In Sierra Leone, at least 98 people were killed when a tanker truck exploded on Friday night after a crash in the capital. Many of the victims were motorcycle riders and taxi drivers who had been trying to collect leaked fuel at the time of the blast in the Wellington area of the capital, Freetown, according to an official from the country's disaster management agency. A witness to the explosion's aftermath said it had also killed people nearby, outside buildings, and in vehicles. The death toll may rise, the official, Mohammed Lamranaba, said, because more people are taken to hospitals in critical condition, and he could not specify the number. The West African country's president, Julius Maada Bio, had said on Twitter that he is deeply disturbed by what had happened and promised government support for the families affected. Now we move in our final segment of world news to South Africa. The African National Congress, South Africa's once vaunted liberation movement, suffered its worst election showing since coming to power in 1994, according to the results of municipal elections released this past Thursday. Facing widespread anger over corruption and collapsing services, the party won less than 50% of the vote nationally on Monday, the first time in its history that it has failed to cross the threshold of 50%. Voters went to the polls on Monday to choose councillors and mayors to govern towns and cities, but they used the opportunity to vent their grievances over national issues, including record unemployment and anger over the handling of COVID. The result was a resounding rebuke for the ANC, and particularly in urban areas. Significantly low voter turnout was a further indication of how the ANC and of the main opposition parties, with voters choosing smaller, identity-driven parties. After municipal setbacks in 2016, ANC leaders promised to learn from our mistakes, and they staked their hopes this year on polling that found President Cyril Ramaphosa with a higher approval rating than that of his party. But however warmly South Africans may feel toward their president, they see a disconnect between his message of national renewal and the corruption that has sullied his party and crippled municipalities. They listen to him and they like him, but then they lower their eyes to the local leaders that are there. They see mediocrity. Not since the 1990s, when Nelson Mandela was the face of the party, has the ANC so heavily relied on the personality of its leader in a local election, said William Gumede, chair of the Democracy Works Foundation. It was not enough to convince voters, but the ANC may have dropped below 40% of Mr. Ramaphosa if Mr. Ramaphosa were not at the center of the campaign, Mr. Gumede said. In the aftermath of the embarrassing show this week, Mr. Ramaphosa is likely to face leadership challenges from within his party. To replace him, his opponents will have to find a unifying candidate. Mr. Ramaphosa, in turn, may have to fire tainted but popular leaders, Mr. Gumede said. This fallout could lead to a split in the ruling party, but prove good for South African voters. And now we'll go back to our show by way of a video. Enjoy the video and we'll see you afterwards. I'm Ken Ludden reporting for the Global Sunday News.
She rolling with me, now she know my whip. They rolling on me, now down my wrist. I got bangs, lights, relics. Ready, 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 ready. Ready or not, we coming hard, straight from the top. Ready or not, I got my bros straight from the top. Ready or not.
Ready? No, I got on my bando, no. I'm just making all this money, yeah, I'm cashing up. All my niggas in the street tryna get it all. All my niggas by the guap, yeah, we get it all. This shit, hunters, no. Making money, oh no.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for the news, Ken. It's very interesting how in South Africa they think going below 50% is considered a huge loss, whereas in Germany, if you would get beyond 50, that would be the most incredible thing, like even touching somehow this threshold. We had elections here 2 months ago. They still haven't decided how they're going to rule. There are three parties that need to work together, and it's not the most ideal combination. And also the minister of my region here has decided to go to Berlin and pass on his seat to the next generation. So it's very interesting of what's happening here actually. So I'm wondering, Jen, what made you choose and stay with this art form? And what music accompanies your performances?
I love utilizing different music. I find that within my specific skill set, I tend towards balletic, fluid movement, but I don't want that to always be informed by a music that is classical in nature, or it could be anything really. And I've had fun mixing it up when creating pieces for the stage. I've been able to use, just recently I was able to use a pop artist song, was able to get that confirmed. And then one time I had a beatboxer on stage so we could have a breaker with some contemporary movement, with some aerial movement. So I really do like to mix it up when given the opportunity.
I guess, oh, sorry, Pipo, did you want to pursue that?
I'm that's the good part of the Global Sunday, that it's a conversation of different people. So go for it, Claire. I love that.
Sorry, I thought I was interrupting a really big train of thought there. Jen, I guess, having fluidity of movement would lend itself to sort of, as you say, balletic music, or, sort of more classic music, but having a beatboxer there, or, doing something to rock music must be extraordinary and powerful. Do you feel a different energy when you're doing that kind of thing?
I do, absolutely. I mean, and it's partially music, it's partially talent in the room, it's, energy of personality. And then when you actually bring that to a stage environment, which has usually been the case for my work versus a video enclosed situation, and that you get the energy of the people as well in the audience. And so, yes, I do agree with you that it is powerful, and it can be. I think I come from an entertainer standpoint, so it could be artistic, it could be commentary, it could be just for the visual aesthetic, and I'm kind of open to all of those explorations in my creative process.
And I guess costuming and all of that would just add, oh God, I've seen aerial artists and oh my goodness, it's such an amazing art form. But it's the whole package. It's, it's incredible. It's really incredible.
It's fun. I mean, it's an interesting place because you feel like there are limitations in the sense of the aerial aspect. I have to work with whatever ceiling is available to me. And in New York City, it was a lot of different rehearsals at different places just to make sure you could get each element. So I might be rehearsing the dancers that stay on the floor in one location, be rehearsing the aerialists in another location, and they wouldn't actually come together until the day before a performance when we had the venue secured to feel all of those things come into be. It's one of those things that can be very stressful, and also something that's super exciting about it too, because you can have this separated vision knowing that something is going to happen on the stage when it all comes together, even if it's maybe a variation of what you thought it would be.
Wow. Would you say that you usually use instrumental music or just as often?
I'm so sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Oh, can you
You
hear me right now?
repeat it?
My connection is a little funny. Yeah. Just do you use instrumental music, or would you often have lyrics?
I think what he asked you was, do you all use instrumental music or music with lyrics?
Oh. It would. The music informs the project, so either. Recently used lyrical pop music, and that was fun to work within that lyrical space. But then instrumental is obviously has a little bit more. You can expand in whichever way you like, right? So anything. I'm open for all of it.
Wow.
If that answers.
Wow.
Recently, Jen, you made history. And here in Prescott, we have an annual event that's called Dancing for the Stars, instead of Dancing with the Stars, and it's modeled after the television show, but it's always pairs of dancers dancing together. One non-dancer, completely novice, and then somebody with dance experience. It's always just a wonderful, entertaining show, and you get to see the mayor and the real estate executive and all these people dancing, and it's and when it's good, it's great, and when it's really bad, it's even better. But anyway, you opened the show, and you were the first time in the history of that show, which has been, I think, a couple of decades, that they had a solo performer. And I felt very proud that I knew you. I thought, this is great, making history. In terms of those transition moments in your career, every single artist has so many movements of the career that happen. What is the most important one that happened in your career, other than, of course, the serendipity of how you got started?
I mean, I do think that one was the one that made me feel like I found my place in my home. But that was just learning. So I was in New York City, and that's where I feel like most of the changes took place. I think it's hard to say. I loved working with another choreographer who primarily used pole for dance, and we created a company called Dance, where we combined aerial and pole and floor movement, and I felt like that was one of those moments where you're creating something different than anyone else has ever created. That's, at the time at least, we thought that was the case. There are people doing similar things, but those moments made me feel very confident in my skills and my ability to work with lots of different people in varying ranges of skill sets, and bringing those together. Recently it's changed because I moved to a small town in Arizona instead of big city New York, so that's its own new can of discovery, where it's more solo work, and I have big ideas, but obviously a pandemic happened. And spaces are limited, so it's kind of like a whole new ball game out here.
Well, innovation always makes us sweat, but it also makes us invent. And I'm really glad that when you did that, combining choreography and dancers on the floor and other elements together, that Celine Dion was in the audience, so she was able to be inspired to do her latest iteration of her show in Las Vegas. You're a trendsetter.
I'd like to think that.
So as a dancer, I wonder, when you're doing those movements and you don't have the floor as something to stop, or can you help me? What is the meaning? What is the right word in English to have something that opposes the movement, so you can stop it or get to a hold position, or
Okay, so yeah, like something that stabilizes, something, a counterbalance to your movement.
like the force of arriving, and then is it thrust, and then the other one is called, how was it called again?
Arrest.
Arrest.
Force of arrest.
So I'm wondering, how do you count the music, and how do you imagine is there fixed positions? Are they referring to space and corners? And how do you define your room? And how do you speak with the stage people, and explain them, like, that has to be here, or how would that work? How is the vocabulary?
I love this question because it is such a different situation. You're working with gravity, and you're working with the physics of force. So movement, when you become tighter, you go faster. When you elongate, you can slow down. And it's finding those moments and how you combine them to change the speed and change how it looks, which makes it very, very, very challenging for coordinated or absolutely matching movement on different bodies. It's a rarity that it's a situation where people are move with that same quality in such a way that it's absolutely perfect on the stage when you're seeing the lines. So like what I was saying before with the poles, that was kind of lovely because you had something that was stuck to the ground that you could utilize to bring, in our case, we would bring a piece of fabric and wrap it around the pole different ways. And so that created that stabilizing moment. You could also be, a grounded performer that is gently slowing someone down, speeding someone up, creating a duet in that way as well. So it's almost as if the grounded performers are more aware of the stage space, but as a performer in the air, I'm aware of my directional space. but it is quite a challenge to speak the same language with everyone, if you will.
So could you describe the best performance you've ever put on for us?
I think a beautiful performance where I felt like we were a little more avant-garde was with this company, Aerialist. We were asked to be a part of a show called Pole Art. It took place in Finland. And so within all of these restrictions of space in relationship to creating movement, we were able to put on, it was six performers, pole and aerial, and combine that. And I found it to be one of those experiences where you just feel proud at the end, because it happened, it came to life, the costume looked great, the visuals and the photos looked great, the video was fun, and then everyone had a good time together. So it was kind of a lovely personality plus performance plus venue experience that made me happy. And you kind of strive for those moments again.
Wow. So what aspect of that would you say was the most avant-garde, and it was different from what you'd normally expect in the kind of show that you put on?
Can someone tell me that louder?
He asked what aspect of that particular performance would be considered avant-garde.
Oh, well, I think at the time it was new in the presentation of combining aerial fabric with pole in a different way than Cirque du Soleil, for example. Like, they had different apparatus in different places, and it's staged in a way that it's combined, but this was physical combination of it with bodies and the apparatus itself.
Wow, that must be so exciting to be part of a somewhat newer dance form, so that you have the opportunity to be making combinations and innovating things that haven't happened yet. That's really amazing.
Very exciting.
Well, I think,
thank you.
Yes. I believe we're meant to go news now, yes? Ken Ludden.
Say it again.
Oh.
I'm Ken Ludden. I'm back with our COVID report. Our second segment is almost always dealing with the COVID pandemic. So in today's COVID update, the coronavirus pandemic has affected our lives, our economy, in nearly every corner of the globe. More than 3.93 billion people worldwide have received a dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, equal to about 51.2% of the world's population. However, there are stark gaps between richer and poorer nations. The United States has surpassed 750,000 known COVID deaths, making this coronavirus pandemic the worst in American history. And globally, so far, about a week and a half ago, the global death toll was above 5 million. Across the United States, Monday, airports expected to be filled with people reuniting with significant others, parents, and friends from the 33 countries that have been prohibited from traveling directly to the United States for more than a year and a half. Lisa Greve, 23, of Erlangen, Germany, is among the travelers who brought the first flight that would get them to their loved one's side as soon as the White House announced the travel would open on November 8th, tomorrow, to fully vaccinated visitors from previously banned countries. She has not seen her boyfriend in over 600 days. Under the new rules, fully vaccinated travelers will be allowed to enter the United States if they can show proof of vaccination and a negative coronavirus test taken 72 hours before departure. Unvaccinated Americans and children under the age of 18 are exempt from the requirement, but must take a coronavirus test within 24 hours of travel. And of course, this in the United States and in many countries, it's very difficult because of the amount of time that the results come in. It's often very difficult to meet that 24-hour deadline. In Britain, the health secretary is urging eligible residents to get booster shots of the coronavirus vaccine, aiming to reduce pressure on the country's health system as winter approaches. Britain is currently experiencing another surge in new cases due to the Delta Plus variant of the coronavirus. 10 million Britons, largely those over the age of 50, have received booster shots since the government began offering them, and millions more will be invited in the coming weeks to book appointments. Officials hope that the extra doses will boost protection against the virus. Some research suggests that immunity against infection in certain populations, particularly the elderly and those with underlying medical conditions, may begin to wane 6 months after full vaccination. Saeed Javed said, he's the health secretary in Britain, said, if we all come together and play our part, we can get through this challenging winter and avoid a return to restrictions and enjoy Christmas. Now, on a different aspect of this coronavirus, 2 spotted hyenas at the Denver Zoo have tested positive for the coronavirus, becoming the first known cases in the world among hyenas, zoo and veterinary services officials announced on Friday. The adult hyenas, 22-year-old Ngozi and 23-year-old Kibo, have so far exhibited mild symptoms of COVID, including a little bit of coughing and sneezing and nasal discharge and lethargy, but they are believed to be in good shape and improving, Dr. Jake Kubei, a spokesman for the Denver Zoo, said on Saturday. The hyenas are the latest in a number of infections confirmed among animals at the Denver Zoo, with positive test results returned for 11 lions and 2 tigers, which Mr. Kubei said have either fully recovered or on their way to recovery. Samples were collected from a variety of species at the zoo, said the announcement from the National Veterinary Services Laboratories, which is part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The samples were tested by the Colorado State University Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory. In the United States, a federal appeals panel on yesterday, temporarily blocked a new coronavirus vaccine mandate for large businesses in a sign that the Biden administration may face an uphill battle in its biggest effort yet to combat the virus among Americans' workforce. The stay, the legal halting of the new rule, issued by the 3-panel judge from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit in Louisiana, doesn't have an immediate impact. The first major deadline in the new rule is December 5th, when companies with at least 100 employees must require unvaccinated employees to wear masks indoors. Businesses have until January 4th to mandate COVID vaccinations or start weekly testing of their workers. But Saturday's move provided momentum for a wide coalition of opponents of the rule who have argued that it is unconstitutional. A group of businesses, religious groups, advocacy organizations, and several states, including Louisiana and Texas, had filed a petition on Friday with the court arguing that the administration had overstepped its authority. Ironically, some of the loudest and most vigorous opposition to this rule is coming from Fox News. Fox News, long before any of the other major corporations, had a stricter policy in place among Fox News. And so it is very interesting that they are leading the charge against this when they, as a corporation, were the first in the United States to actually impose this type of restriction, and yet theirs was even stricter. That's all for the coronavirus update. And now we're going to show an outbreak, a short video called Outbreak, and then we will return to our very special guest, Jen James. We'll see you on the other side of the video.
She rolling with me, now she know my whip. They rolling on me, now I'm a wrist. I got bangs, lights, relics, up. Ready or not, I got my bro straight from the top. Ready or not.
Ready? No, I got all my bands on, no. I'm just making all this money, yeah, I'm cashing up. All my niggas in the street tryna get it off. All my niggas by the guap, yeah, we get it off. This shit, hunters, no. Making money.
Welcome back to the Global Sunday. It's great to have you all here. And it's great to have our beautiful guest, Jen James, with us, who is an aerial dancer, which is an extraordinary thing to be, I think. So Jen, as an actor, I often forget my lines on stage. And you have to scramble in your head. You're sort of, in your character, and you're in your head trying to sort of work out, okay, where am I? And then just come to some sort of point of release where you can just allow the script to come back to you, and the given circumstances and all of that. And I've heard that dancers are a bit the same, that they are a bit dyslexic, and forget their dance steps. Now, obviously, you're not dancing on the ground, but there must be some sort of mechanism where all of a sudden you've forgotten what you're doing, or you miss a step, so to speak. Has that ever happened to you, and how has it panned out?
If it hadn't happened to me, I feel like I wouldn't be a performer.
That's right, yes.
But, ways to work through it. I'd say in a solo aspect, it has absolutely happened where I turned a direction that I should not have turned in a skill. And so instead of unlocking my body, I locked it, which just means that like a piece of fabric is crisscrossed around me instead of allowing me to then go to the next place. So then it is change choreography right away, work with that. I'm blessed or have practiced the skill of improvisation within my craft, so I feel personally comfortable in that space. But with a group and with choreography, it has also happened. And it's also happened with me as the choreographer watching other people, and you hope that they communicate, right? But it's interesting, the question about dyslexia or having sometimes forgetting where you're going. And in the aerial sense, it's very applicable in just teaching. And actually, I guess more in teaching than in performance, because by the time you're performing, you're hopefully just doing it over and over and it becomes rote memory. But in teaching, upside down and saying right and left to people is often very, very challenging. So you come up with all sorts of different ways to speak the language to whomever it is you're speaking to, whether it's toward the ceiling, toward the floor, like directional in that sense, or if it is closer to your toes. You have to find a way that people understand what you're asking for. And it's amazing how different that can be from body to body, brain to brain. But anyway, of course, yes, I've definitely encountered that.
So I guess, the vernacular around stage right, stage, upstage, downstage doesn't necessarily apply to you, or does it?
When you're suspended from the ceiling, your ability to move upstage, downstage, it still exists in directional planning for choreography. But let's say I move, if my apparatus is low enough to the ground and I can put my feet there, then I can operate that. If I am suspended and already wrapped up from the ceiling and pulled up by a motor, I'm kind of at the mercy of where I'm spinning on that motor to determine how or what kind of, if the audience sees a profile or a frontal, unless there is something up there that I can hold on to really, change that situation. So the drama hopefully comes across more so sometimes than the directional facing.
And do you get, this is very naive of me, but do you get tangled up?
You can. You can, and I have an example of when it wasn't I mean, I wasn't tangled, but I was up high, and so you have that, there's like a fear factor, or what I call a safety, a safe fear of heights. I am in the range of people that my safe place is under 30 feet above the ground. Cirque du Soleil people might say 0. They can go, they can go skydive with it. I can't do that. But so you're activated and you're engaged in your body. And if something is going wrong and you feel stuck, then you have that, I would say this in rehearsal more than in performance, you have that moment of like, okay, what do I do? But hopefully you've gone into this performance analyzing where things are wrapped and meant to be on your body. So if you see that the fabric is closer to your body and it really was supposed to be further from your body, then you have to go through a series of things to fix that. But in a performance, and I was pregnant at the time, so I had a little extra, like, I think fear mechanism trigger in my body. It wasn't wrong. It was just slower than the other person, but I, had that moment of like, gotta get, and then unless you calm yourself down, then it's just a sloppy transition instead of a pretty but late transition, So it's a choice you make while you're dangling over people's heads.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were talking about teaching, and I've really found with music that those challenges in teaching and how do I say this so you're going to get it, like, has made me such a better musician, having to think about it from every angle so other people understand it, because it's like you get into a groove of like, I've got this thing I do that works, but to understand it from all the angles so that you could make sure somebody else gets it is like a whole other level. Have you experienced something similar like that?
I have, and even more than the words, also the body and body type, and how when you're hanging from the ceiling, if your weight is what am I saying? Like your lever point is different, or what, like when I was pregnant, it was very difficult. It can be very easy to pull myself to a standing position on aerial silks when I'm in this shape. When I was pregnant, I had to fully modify how I could do that just to feel secure. So having that change in my body actually helped inform how I teach as well. But it is absolutely, it's words, it's body, it's background, it's being sensitive to who people are outside of the studio. And I think, everyone tries to be as aware as you can about other people and work within their range of confidence and level and make it happen so that they succeed or feel like they succeed by the end of whatever session it is. And I strive for that.
That's a great question, Damon. One time I was having lunch with a bunch of famous ballerinas, which is never a good position for a male dancer to be in. And I had danced with all of them. But one of them we were sitting there, and I had an injury, and it was clear that my performing career was over. And Carmen Mate turned to me and she said, "Now, Ken, don't worry. All of us have found that the best dancing we've ever done is when we're teaching and demonstrating to students rather than anything we ever did on stage." And so it's true, when you're teaching, there really is this other orientation. But in terms of the becoming disoriented and dyslexia and things, Jen, I tried to do a little bit of a search on Google, but I've never found anything I searched for on the internet. I was particularly looking up Simone Biles, the American gymnast who in the Olympics had to drop out of competition because she had a and there was a name for it, and I was looking for that name. Do you know what that is?
The twisties is what she said.
The twisties. Do you get that as an aerialist? Is that something that happens in aerial work when you're connected to things, or only when you're flying through the air, twisting around without any connection?
I can't speak for other people. It hasn't happened to me. I've had variations of my body being willing to spin at fast speeds. That has changed over time. I would say people more in the beginning range of learning how to do aerial might encounter dizziness, and sometimes that means that they say, no, this isn't my thing. But I haven't heard a term specifically related to aerialists who experience that, to answer the question in a short way.
Well, just listening to you talk about what you do is giving me PTSD. I am so afraid of heights. One time I was diving off of a low diving board into a swimming pool, and I got to the top of the arc and looked down and fainted, and I hit the water just like, because I was completely passed out. I fainted from being up high. So
but that's why you do it in a hammock low to the ground, so you just feel like you're doing an arabesque. You just have a little extra prop assistant partner. So when the ballerina is without her male partner, she can do something else.
okay, I still don't think I'm going to try it, but if I do, you will be my partner. And then every big, strong person possible around me to make it so I don't fall. Okay, sorry, Claire, off to you.
Well, on this topic, it's kind of like, if you're having a bad day, or you're not feeling great for whatever reason, I mean, even being pregnant must have been very challenging for you. Even if you had a really, fantastic pregnancy that you sailed through, the changes in your body and just how you feel that day would absolutely have to affect the way that you perform. I mean, it's not like me on stage, or Ken on stage, or Peepo, or any of us on stage. We're grounded. We've got our feet on the ground. But for you, that added element of being, 30 feet in the air, or however high, must be really challenging. How do you sort of address that so that you can get on and perform with all those challenges?
I would argue that it's probably a similar feeling, in the sense of maybe a little bit of not anxiety, but the nervous tummy before you go on stage. For me, it's not stage fright. It's just that I want to do a good job, and I'm committed to being the best I can at that point. And for me, being on stage is really such a happy place that if I can find myself there, it's likely to be a happy day. If it's not, something happens otherwise, then I also feel like when I get to a stage, I should be grateful for that moment, that I'm able to have this opportunity to do what I love. So that comes from a very optimistic place. I'm sure that there are other opinions out there, but I like to cherish the moments I have in the place I love.
Yeah. Well, actually, how do you eat before you perform?
Good question. I absolutely eat. Maybe not right before, unless it was, a little snack. But it is now very much an important part of my practice to drink water the whole day. If I'm not hydrated, then I get dizzy very quickly. And then after, I usually have to, drown in water. No, I drink a lot of water or lay down sometimes if I've been doing a lot of spinning, and that's just how my body reacts at this point in my life. It wasn't really the case pre-baby days.
Wow.
But I just
So-
like performing so much that I will do that. I will lay on the ground looking like a crazy person just so I can do that 15-minute set.
Yeah.
So if I'm I'm starting to be convinced to take the class with Ken in aerial dancing,
Please.
you know,
No.
once I'm back there with all those persons that securing and holding us. So maybe I can start a little routine here. What kind of exercises would you advise me to do? I mean, which muscle groups do I need to work on?
All right, if we're talking about grounded with a hammock, which is where I recommend starting with any kind of a dance background is helpful, but wrists, planks, I'm not showing, but you know what I mean, plank, any kind of Pilates based or yoga based exercise is helpful so your core feels, or you know how to engage the core, and knowing, I mean, knowing the musculature of your body is helpful for communication with an instructor. But it's
Okay.
planks and some push-ups would probably be helpful.
Planks and some push-ups. Okay, got that.
Right, I'm out.
But you can start those at an angle, you know, up against your stairs. It's all doable.
Okay. Well, you know,
A core strength.
yes. Well, Damon, does that mean you're gonna join us too, or
I see this dare coming, whether it's
Sure.
a dare or a specific class for the panel. I'm ready. Let's do it.
That'll be a comedy show.
I'll fly to Australia. We'll do it down there.
what are the most important traits a dancer should have, Jen?
Ooh. Well, obviously an awareness of their body to be a dancer, but from a director choreographer standpoint, I want someone who is this is the wrong word. I was about to say malleable, but just open to change. Someone who takes direction. And, you know, I tend toward just nice personality, respectful. And those are my happy places. I like pointed feet too.
Those sound like a lot of qualities that just would be you'd want in whoever you're working with.
Yes.
Yeah. So that last one.
But
Is there anything that's like specific for just on that same topic, anything for aerial dancers specifically that like is demanding in a way that other dancing isn't as much?
well, there's this strength and there's the strength issue that's different. So if I were to go into a ballet studio and speak to the ballerinas and say, hey, just come do this, they probably would get to, you know, a beautiful place on the floor, but then much more than that needs some conditioning. And so really it would be desire to do it, because if it's not worth the time and effort needed to, you know, have the awareness of the muscles that you need to use if you wanted to take it higher and really build off of that. But I've started from places, you know, with Broadway dancers, you know, it's what you make of the situation. So if I were to hire someone for an event where it's a ceiling that's 30 feet tall, I'm going to my experienced aerialists that were dancers before. And if I'm doing something low that needs a little sass appeal, then that is much more open to a wide range of dancers.
Cool. Thank you.
That's really interesting. just two things. I remember when we were doing the Acronite performance, in between your sets and after, and just for you out there around the world who are watching this, Jen was on, it was a pole with a big ring at the top, and she was in the ring and going all around the ring. And you mentioned about the bruises, because you've got a steel rod that you're sideways on and upside down, and that has got to, I mean, I guess I know, dancing and ballet, I've strained muscles and broken bones and had to keep on dancing, but a bruise is really, that's got to just be so distracting.
There are different things that you will deal with as an aerialist. If you are working with a soft apparatus like silks or hammock, then you'll feel the squish. So you feel like if it's not placed correctly, or if it's not placed correctly, then you will feel like your insides are about to pop out. If I'm just not for your first time. This is when you're really going for it. So you're still coming to that first class. Anyway, if it's a metal apparatus, the likelihood is to bruise. So anyone that uses that's a lira or a lollipop lira is what he was talking about. A pole. There are plenty of apparatus that are metal, and so it's the pressure of your body up against this metal thing that's usually like this big. And yes, the bruises exist, and you get used to them or you hate them. And there are some people that only work on the soft apparatus, and there are some people that only work on the hard apparatus, and you kind of, it's like dancing on point. You put up with it for the beauty of it, right? So your body starts to bruise or callus or wherever the pressure is placed. You do have to accommodate some discomfort for a little while.
I cannot imagine. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a break. We're going to go to Lungani, and we're going to check in with our viewers around the world. I'm so glad you're all tuned in, and also some of the comments and all of that. So Lungani, what's going on online on the web?
Straight from the top, ready or not, I got my bros straight from the top, ready or not, ready or not, ready or not.
Ready? No, I got on my bando, no. I'm just making all this money, yeah, I'm cashing up. All my niggas in the street tryna get it all. All my niggas by the guap, yeah, we get it all. This shit, hundreds, no. Making money, oh no.
Yeah, wonderful conversation there. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Jen James. I'm gonna grab a few comments and just to say hello to people who are watching. I'm gonna go on Facebook and say hello to Lihle Hlapo. Shout out to you, Lihle. And she is saying good evening. She is in South Africa, so it's evening in South Africa. Shout out to you. Let me say shout out to Luno Market SA, and they're saying, I have a question. What exercises one can do? I think that's already been answered. You should do push-ups and planks and work out your core. Yeah. So I think already there's people that wants to join. So shout out to you, Luno. Yeah. If you have some more questions, we'll try and answer as we go. Hello, beautiful. Okay. Wow, nice. Luno is saying hello, beautiful. Mamia, now it's perfect. Mamia is saying hello to you. Shout out to you. Bongiwe is saying she remember Lysandra. Yeah, please vote for her. We are going to continue sending you guys shout out. If you're on YouTube, also you can send a comment below. We'll make sure that we send you a shout out. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Thank you for staying with us. I'm just gonna play this video from Jen. Okay, so I know you guys been waiting. You've been hearing these amazing talks and explanations and expressions, but now the moment of truth where I show you the actual video performance of James. I hope you're ready for this one. From me, Lungani Gwala, I'm saying shout out to you and thank you so much. I'll check you later. Stay tuned because we are going to be talking some more with our beautiful panelist and our lovely guest. So enjoy this video from Jen and I'll see you on the other side. God bless.
That was amazing. Seeing all those different kinds of dancing put together, seeing the ballet dancers with the pole dancers next to them, and seeing all those different arrangements of the aerial dancing. Incredible. They look sort of like mobiles, like mobiles hanging and spinning, but human mobiles, so they can, improvise and they can move and they move in all the human ways as well. And it's also just really makes me realize how you start to consider the vertical dimension of the stage. Like there was the questions about stage right and stage left and everything, but there's, it's just like all of a sudden it's a chess game that goes this way too. It's got a whole other dimension to it, and you just see how much space you have to work with in that environment, and the different ways of ascending with the poles or the fabrics. It's incredible. So such an amazing thing to bring to the stage. Thank you for that video.
Thank you. It's like set design without the backdrop.
Yeah.
Yes, and you just pointed it out. It's very true. All these different elements you can work with. And I also read in your bio that you've been involved in many different aspects of this. I never know how to call it. It's so hard for me to say, is it performance or performing, or is it art, or is it circus, or it's open to all the other disciplines. And dance as an art form is open to all disciplines, and it can involve everything. And you can go and see a dance performance and it has avant-garde music of John Cage, or you have the Rite of Spring, and the dancers, they're working with counts that aren't the usual counts. So you can go and break some of the patterns that we're used to. Although it's still, since it's visual, it helps you to stay and perceive what's happening, and you can hear music that usually, like with the Rite of Spring, you would consider not music at that time, or that would be revolutionary. And I find that very interesting and intriguing to think of how many different elements you have. I also want to welcome everybody back and get back to the questionnaire. As an international dancer, what does it feel like to dance in front of a huge audience?
Magic.
Uh,
Oh, do you hear
we
me?
lost your audio. Now you're back. Yeah.
You're back, yes.
My answer was magic or magical. I don't know if you can tell by how excited I get talking about being on a in stage environment. I love the feeling of performing in general. And I find something very special in the small environments too, because I have that direct eye-to-eye connection, and it's a different perspective. You're hanging over someone's head and you're like, speaking to them with your eyes or with your body. And I love that. I love being on stage when you can't see anybody and you just feel the energy around you. Magical was a good way to sum it up, though. It's very exciting. I miss this past month. I've gotten back to having some kind of audience, and I feel like it's fed the soul quite a bit.
I agree with you about that energy that a live audience gives you. It's a real, whatever the performance, whatever our way of being on stage, whether it's, as an actor, a dancer, a musician, whatever it is, that energy cannot be replaced. And as we've done a lot over the last 2 years on Zoom, most of us, as soon as you get back in front of an audience, it's all of a sudden like your spirit just comes alive, because it's not, the audience is just as integral to a performance as the performers are. And it's very much a holistic thing. So yes, I totally get that feeling of magic. And I guess it doesn't matter whether it is a huge audience or a very intimate audience. The same thing applies. You just respect, the energy flow between both what you're doing and what the audience is doing, and in giving back. And it's quite extraordinary. And I was, just to be able to offer your art to the world is quite extraordinary. And what I just saw in that beautiful clip is mind-blowing. I think Ken said he felt sick, but I think it was not because of your performance. It was because he was putting himself in your shoes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I like the kind of hammock that's like on two trees, and that if you put your feet over the side, they're on the ground. While we were watching that amazing video, we were talking, when the videos are on, for those of you in the audience, we can talk to each other, we've talked a lot about language, of like just spatial relation to things and all that. And you mentioned a word, I got a D in geography, so I didn't know what you meant, but you said something about a dodecahedron. I think that's a river somewhere, but I'm not sure what that was.
It was the shape of an apparatus. It's one of my favorites. It's considered like a sacred geometric shape. But a friend of mine who owns an entertainment company, she built, or she had built a dodecahedron. So it's basically like, a hanging ornament. That's what I like to do. I'm a hanging ornament, but in the shape of a dodecahedron. So fun because you get to find new pathways and shapes that aren't on the apparatus that you could teach someone at a local studio. So it's just a place to be creative.
That's incredible. There is a tremendous tribute to aerial artistry. I don't know how much you're aware, but in pre-Second World War Germany and Europe, aerialists and the circus were absolutely the biggest stars. And Joseph Stull, who was Margot Fontaine's closest American friend, wrote a book as a tribute to Margot and Rudolph in their historic partnership. It's called Queen of the Air, and the central character is an aerialist in the 20s and the 30s in Germany and around Europe. Actually, we published his book in the Fontaine Academy Press. And it really is, it's incredible. Of course, it's Nazis and intrigue and the backstage sex lives of people and all of that stuff. It's a good book, but it is also a tribute to the power of the aerialist, and also it deals a great deal with how the aerialist enters the arena of the aerial work and leaves it. You know what I mean? And staging those so that the audience is primed right. Anyway, there's so many, as Damon was saying, and Pipo, Claire, all of these things that come together. It's incredible. It's a geometric factor that just explodes possibilities. What projects and initiatives are you working on today, or do you dream of that you would like to bring to global attention?
Ooh, well, locally, in the community, I'd like to have a space where I can teach. So I'm working on that. Insurance and reality comes into play. So that's a work in progress. I will be creating for a music festival, kind of an installation. So I'm in the very early stages of idea formation on that. And other things are not set in stone, but I am trying to get out there and perform for, bar and bat mitzvahs and any special events who want, champagne poured from the sky or something like that. But then, if anyone out there needs a choreographer for some aerial magic, I'm available and interested, I should say. Stage, film, I like all of the incarnations of creative entertainment space. So options are limited and limitless depending on which way you look at it.
Right.
And I guess it depends on how open people are, having somebody like you at a private party. Well, I mean, it would create challenges because, you would have to make sure that the ceiling that you were hanging from is secure. I don't think you could come into a lot of private homes and do that because the ceiling would fall through. But, it's amazing the places that you can find yourself in performing. And good on you. Good on you. Just keep on going with that. That's fantastic. So, we've slightly touched on the pandemic and how that has affected most of us. It's been a time of a lot of self-reflection in a lot of ways, and how to, I guess, for a lot of us, how to take our careers, our businesses, our passion, and take it into another dimension. Yours is a very physical dimension, to be an aerialist. So, what's kind of helped you in the last 2 years? You did mention you have a child. So I guess that's been a big part of being at home with somebody, which is pretty special. But what's helped you as an artist in these last 2 years over the course of the pandemic?
Good question. Well, I had just moved to Arizona.
Oh, we can't hear you, Jen.
Oh, can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me? Yes?
No, nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Sign language?
Now you are.
There we go.
Now you're there. Okay.
Dancing the answer.
Thank you.
So I had just moved to Arizona from New York in 2019. So there were a lot of changes taking place. And thankfully, I had ordered an outdoor aerial rig. So like a standalone situation that's 23 feet tall that fits in the front yard. So I was able to continue practicing my craft when a lot of people had nothing. So I feel very lucky that I had that.
So would your neighbours.
I don't have many
Surely.
neighbors.
Oh, you don't have any neighbours.
It's no neighbors, just some animals.
Oh, okay. I'm sure they were appreciative.
People from the highway can see it, but you know, that's my audience right now. But I do have 3 children that are young. So right now, 7, 5, and 3. So that's, you know, imagine that as your everyday, and then being able to go outside occasionally just to, you know, let loose in a physical way was very helpful. But, you know, there were a lot of silver linings. I got myself organized. You know, I've had all of these clips that you saw. They were just on a hard drive somewhere, not quite organized. So I was able to send it. I started a new business in Arizona. So that's, you know, making forward steps in that way. So, you know, I kept myself busy. And now I'm hoping the fruits of all the labor, you know, comes to life even more. It's starting to feel that way. So it's very exciting.
Yeah.
There's hope.
Do you think you'll get your kids into aerial dancing?
I wish I had pictures right now to show you, but yes, they all love it.
Oh, great.
Especially the hammock, because mommy feels safe too. You know, they can sit inside, and we call it a bucket seat, where it covers from the, you know, mid thigh to the low back, so they can lean back and no problem, I'm right there, but also they feel safe. My littlest, I have 2 boys and a girl, and she's already figured out that sitting in the hammock is not enough. She said, "Mommy, but I want to do real aerial." So she stands up, throws her arms out. I'm like, "Whoa, hold on a second." But she's, you know, posing inside. So something's happening. They are definitely viewing part of the practice and internalizing in whatever way is appropriate for their character. But
Beautiful.
it's very cute.
Beautiful. Yeah. Pippo, how about you?
My practice as an artist has been a lot screen time, and I've been taking walks. It's been possible to take walks here most of the time, so that's been good. And also I got a lot of things done in that time. So there was constantly something happening, always. And it's kind of been non-stop. And there's this joke about an editor in the pandemic, and I do quite a bit of editing, and an editor that isn't in the pandemic, and it's the same picture. You are in front of your screen on your own. So yes, that's the good part of the work. So I was wondering, what is your vision for the sphere you can have an impact on in the near and in the far future, Jen?
I have dreams. So I'll answer the far question first. I have dreams of getting all professional dancers in a space doing aerial instead of semi-professional or I sound bad right now. It's usually like gymnasts or dancers that tend to go toward aerial. But I'd like to get a group of people that all know their apparatus already without, having to teach a lot first in a space and creating stuff. But then locally and soon, I am hoping to have a space to teach, but then also start offering retreats. So 3 to 5 day events where people can come and learn aerial, and I'm wanting to combine that with other things. So aerial plus outdoor life in Prescott, Arizona, or aerial plus spiritual element in Sedona, or aerial plus burlesque or music or opera, or things that make it interesting and kind of intriguing for different subsets of people. But this small town, it's a small town, but it has a lot to offer. And so it's kind of fun to share it with others as well.
I would love to see your version of all of those things, having seen now, some of the creations you've done on stage, these contraptions of human mobiles and these combinations of different art forms. I'm sure that'll be fantastic.
It's all possible. Coming soon.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. What would you say to somebody who wants to be like you in the future?
Ooh. I would say stay positive. Keep taking little steps forward to realize what you enjoy, how you enjoy it. I think, what's helped me, and this was not even in an artistic endeavor, this was in college, and trying to figure out if I was going to pursue a real career, right? And people tried to, you can go on interviews and then you're just trying to get a job. But what I found most helpful was going on personal interviews with other people, asking them to tell me about their life and what they're doing, almost like a mentor would, and finding those people along your path, whatever path you decide to take. And if it were in my direction, I would say, come to me. I'll tell you what my experience has been. I'm happy to share that information, because the more the merrier. If you love this, let's pursue that. So, let me help you figure out what about it you love and how you can make it special wherever you are, however you want it to be.
I've seen there dancers from all over the world are constantly in contact with me, and a lot of the kids that 10 years ago were in the ballet school in Kiev and different places, Donetsk and Ukraine, that I knew them as growing up, and they check in with me, and a lot of them are doing aerial work, and there's a whole bunch of male ballet dancers who got really intrigued with parkour and ended up doing these cruise ship lines, and they're at Disney World. They're doing and Cirque du Soleil, and they're doing there's so much now of all of these kids that I knew as beginning or middle of ballet students, and now as professionals, their aerial is a very big part of what they do. And then there's one thing that a lot of them do, where they're on one hand, it's like a pole that comes up with a square metal thing at the top, and they do stuff on that. I don't know what that's called, but it's fascinating.
Hand balancing.
What's it called?
Hand balancing.
Hand balance. Oh, I could have named it that. I thought it was a dodecamecahedron. Anyway, unfortunately, we have come to the end of our show, and as is the process, we ask the panel if you have any last words, as well as the panelists. And so I'm going to say, for my last words, thank you. It was just delightful to learn. We know each other well. We talk many times a week. I didn't know any of this stuff. So thank you very much. Claire, what are your last words here?
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you so much, Jen. It's been absolutely fascinating. And I guess as a Gemini whose sign, element is air, this is kind of appealing. And whilst you were talking, I thought, oh, maybe I should look into this. But I don't think my body would get off the ground. So I'm just going to leave it in my mind, flying high. And thank you so much for this beautiful, beautiful conversation and enlightening us all on your art form, which is extraordinary.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Hippo.
So it doesn't seem like you need any wishes for a good future because you're on an excellent path. It just reminds me of artworks of Yves Tanguy, who was one of the main persons representing the kinetic arts. And he made those mobiles. And the first time I saw that in a museum, I thought like, okay, so what is that here? And then I went to an exhibition, a solo show, and it was all those machines, incredible, huge machines. And now there's this museum in Basel in Switzerland that is entirely about his work. So you can end up everywhere. And thanks so much for sharing. And it's been a pleasure to talk with you today. And hope to talk again soon in person. I've just heard from Ken that it's possible again to fly into the US, and I guess I'll see you there.
Sounds good.
So Jen, what are your last words?
Oh, well, I want to say thank you to all of you. I know you have wonderful, beautiful careers. I appreciate your time and your questions. I appreciate that you come from a place within and also separate from this world that I'm exploring, and to be able to have these conversations and ask questions and learn more is an amazing way to move forward, expand, and I hope that everyone in the audience enjoyed, and maybe you'll come take a class.
Damon.
Well, you inspired me today by seeing your work and just everything can be done with it. That I would really like to work with aerial dancing, perhaps in combination with music. So thank you. It makes me excited.
Thank you.
So then, Lungani, we're down to your final words.
Okay, I've been quiet for too long. I mean, I can't even talk. Yeah, I would like to say thank you so much, Jen, for making time. I know
Lungani, your audio is very low.
my audio is very low.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds like your mic is not on.
Now it's fine. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was saying thank you so much to Jen. Thank you so much to all of you guys for making time, to be part of the show. And what a lovely, lovely, beautiful talk that you guys had. I'm sure a lot of people are inspired, especially women. I really like it when we hear a lot from women. It inspires me. Well done to all of you. Thank you so much, Mr. Laden. Thank you so much, Claire. Thank you so much, Damon. Thank you so much, people. And lastly, thank you so much, Jen. I'll let you say your last words if you have, and then we just close the show. Thank you so much to all of you guys who are watching at home, commenting. I see a lot of comments. People are inspired. People love you. They're saying you're so beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much to you guys at home. We really appreciate it. Yeah, Jen, if you have something to say, you might as well say it now, or otherwise, Lungani ko alawati kulumina po panwa chesi hamajan Lungani ko lele aka yung panaka chocolate kid. This is the Global Sunday. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Jen, say something before we close the show. Say bye bye to everybody.
Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate your time, and I hope to fly over your head sometime soon.
Actually, where can people find you or watch your videos?
Oh, find me. Website suspendedfluidity.com. YouTube with /suspended fluidity, and then also jen-james.com for some other work as well.
Beautiful.